Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome back to another installment of Scott's Selections for Thursday, March 19th. We're getting into today's play of the day. A quick announcement as to what's been going on with the channel recently. Some of you might have noticed I haven't really been making any videos lately, mostly due to the fact that due to the coronavirus, there are pretty much no sports to talk about. You have some NBA 2K and esports stuff. You have some Serbian soccer, and you had some Russian hockey, I believe, that was still going on. Overall, not familiar with any of those, so I decided not to make any videos about it. Thought it wouldn't be fair to you if I just paraded around pretending to know what I'm talking about when in reality I don't. I've seen that a lot on Twitter. People were betting Mexican soccer for a while before that got shut down, even though people had no idea what they were talking about. Same thing with cricket, badminton, ping pong, pretty much any sport that's been available lately. In these circumstances, people have been trying to give out plays on them, and I don't know anything about them, so I'm not going to join them in that same pursuit. However, there is one specific area that I want to talk about, and that is going to be with the NFL. With the current influx of talent on, changing rosters through free agency, you still have some decent draft props that are up currently on some sports books, and there's one prop in particular that I do think possesses a lot of value, and for that reason, I will be giving that out as play of the day. I expect this line to move, so for that reason, I'm giving it out early. I know the draft will be in hopefully around a month or so. You don't really know because the whole thing might get potentially moved back. It seems like the NFL pretty much stated publicly it does not want to move it back. Even if the coronavirus is still common in Vegas, they said they try to find a way around it, potentially just not invite any prospects, potentially just do everything on television. I don't know, but either or. The play of the day for Thursday, March 19th is going to be on DraftKings, and this will be on Tua Tagovailoa, and we like the over 3.5 draft spot, which is available at plus 118 on DraftKings. So once again, they have a section in the 2020 draft, which is called Player Draft Position, where you can bet on the specific draft pick selection that specific players will go in. They currently have 3 available. They have Chase Young, Tua, and they have Justin Herbert. So, for example, if you end up taking over 3.5 for Tua, that means you think he will be picked 4th or higher, higher being 5th, 6th, 7th, or stuff like that. And if you take the under 3.5, that means you think he's going to go in the top 3. But based on the recent influx of talent, I have to assume that Tua will still be around after the 3rd selection. So for that reason, I will be taking Tua over 3.5 draft selections, or, over to be the 4th pick or later, at plus 118 on DraftKings, and that will be the play of the day. Now, a couple reasons why. First of all, I think it's a foregone conclusion that Cincinnati will be taking Joe Burrow with the number 1 overall pick. It makes too much sense. Cincinnati needs a quarterback. Burrow just won Player of the Year. He won the Heisman. He won a national championship, and plus he also went to Ohio State earlier in his career. Local kid. And I think that it's a can't-miss move by Cincinnati from a PR perspective to draft the hometown kid to play for the Bengals. Definitely should work out. There were some issues about Burrow, potentially some rumors circulating that he might refuse to play for the Bengals if they drafted him, but Burrow put that to bed around the NFL Combine and said that he would play for whatever team drafted him. So Burrow will be the number 1 pick. I'd be shocked if he doesn't. He's roughly minus 1,200 to be selected with the first pick, so that's a lock. Washington is most likely going to be taking Chase Young with the 2nd pick. Currently minus 500 on Fox Bet. Currently minus 400 on some offshore books to be the 2nd overall pick. Washington, overall, you could argue that they could potentially trade the pick, or they could potentially be going for Tua early, but I don't see it. They literally just drafted a quarterback last year, and you also have to remember that Washington pretty much is held captive by Dan Snyder, who likes to believe that he knows everything about football, and he will make most of the decisions, and he had a very big influence on the reason why Washington drafted Haskins last year, and I do not think that he will abandon ship that quickly. I think Washington will address defense. They'll probably take Chase Young just based on that talent. They could pair him up with Kerrigan and some of the other people on the defensive line, Jonathan Allen as well. I think that's too attractive to pass up, so I think that Washington will take Chase Young. Even if they take somebody else, even if they gamble and they end up taking Okudah or they end up taking Isaiah Simmons, still defensive based, I don't think they're going to be going for a quarterback, so I think that the first 2 picks should be pretty set in stone. The 3rd pick for Detroit's kind of interesting. I personally think Detroit should take Okudah. I actually thought about giving that out as potentially play as another play of the day, based on the fact that they just traded their number 1 corner, Darius Slay. to the Eagles, and they got a couple draft picks in return. Main reason why, though, is because the Lions are terrible, as people know. However, according to some reports, the Lions are still in win-now mode under general manager Bob Quinn and coach Matt Patricia. Main reason why is simply because if they suck again, then they're probably both going to get fired. So for that reason, the Lions are going to need to do whatever they can to attract some talent. There were some potential hypotheticals of the Lions trading Matt Stafford and maybe drafting Tua. But realistically, with Stafford coming in off the injuries he's had last year, if they end up trading him, they're going to get pennies on the dollar for him. It doesn't really make any sense. You can't really be in win-now mode if you ship off your franchise quarterback and draft a rookie in his replacement when you could potentially get the entire coaching staff fired. Based on that, Detroit, I have to assume, is going to go for Okudah if he's still available at 3 because of the fact that Slay is going to be gone. However, they could be taking Isaiah Simmons, the outside linebacker out of Clemson, who has just been fantastic in his college career and had one of the best combines earlier in 2020. So for that reason, I think that Detroit will pretty much go defense guaranteed. Patricia's also, the defensive-minded guy out of New England, and I think he will do whatever he can to try to get his hands on another defensive piece to play with defensively. So for that reason, I think Detroit should go defense on that one. I'm not worried about them taking Tua. So based on that, you have Cincinnati, Washington, and Detroit. I don't think any of them are going to take Tua. And based on that, I think the only way that you actually lose this prop is if somebody trades up in order to get him. The only issue I have with that is that Washington, I don't see doing that based on the fact that I think Washington can either A, address some of the defensive needs that they have, and B, overall, Dan Snyder's not the type of guy who trades back. I see him just taking the pick. Chase Young is a potential generational talent on the defensive side of the ball, and I don't think that they're going to try to ship it off for more assets. I don't see that coming. So I think Cincinnati and Washington should draft accordingly. Detroit could trade back, but since Patricia and the GM might get fired, I don't really know how you can trade back, considering the fact that you won't actually be around, most likely, to see those prospects develop. I think Detroit will probably panic and take somebody with the hope of trying to save face with his defense. Detroit will blame the Stafford injuries for why they didn't make the playoffs and why their season fell apart. And for that reason, I think that they're just going to try to build up their defense once again and hope that Stafford carries them offensively. I don't think they're going to trade down. I think the top 3 will make picks. I think the Giants could potentially trade down, but that's already at the 4 spot. So for that reason, I really don't see how this is plus money. Tua to go to the Dolphins is minus 150 on Fox Bet, and the Dolphins draft 5th. So I don't really know how that can happen, just based on the fact that the Dolphins, even if they trade up, the Dolphins would have to trade up to 3 with the Lions. Are they really going to trade up 2 spots when both the Lions and the Giants don't need quarterbacks? That really doesn't make any sense to me. So based on that, I think Tua should end up going 5th to the Dolphins. And I think at 3.5 at plus 118, I think that line's an absolute joke. That line should be somewhere around minus 130, minus 140. So I already saw this line actually at plus 130 or so earlier this morning, but it's already dropped to plus 118. I think this line will continue to drop. I should expect it to reach a minus at some point. But overall, there's too much value on it. So for that reason, the play of the day once again for Thursday, March 19th is going to be on Tua over 3.5 draft selections. So in other words, 4th pick or later in the draft, which is available at plus 118 on DraftKings. And that is the play of the day. Now, in terms of videos in the future, even though the UFC ended up canceling its card this week as well as Bellator for the immediate future, there actually are some MMA fights going on in a separate organization. I believe it's called Cage Wars. That's going to be taking place tomorrow in the UK. And even though I'm not really familiar with most of the fighters, I will be going into a deep dive on them tonight, and I will be able to come up with a play of the day on that MMA card tomorrow. So stay tuned for that. But overall, that's going to be this installment of Scott's Selections here for Thursday, March 19th. Good luck to all of you and your respective bets today. Bye, everyone.